Hi, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Happy 4th of July, also known as American Independence Day. Now, there are not a lot of horror movies that take place on Independence Day, but there is one in particular that I think everybody recognizes as the best horror movie that takes place on July 4th, which is Jaws. As you remember, they didn't want to close down the beaches because of the July 4th celebration, which causes Jaws to come and eat a bunch of people. But that's not the movie we're going to talk about today. Return of the Living Dead is also not the movie, but this takes place. It starts on July 3rd, so I guess technically part of it takes place on Independence Day. But it's not a very patriotic movie, and it doesn't really embrace the holiday. Silver Bullet, also based on Stephen King's The Cycle of the Werewolf. It takes place during different cycles, so different months, and one of the cycles happens to take place during July 4th. So some of this movie takes place during the holiday, but not that much of it, not enough to call it a Independence Day horror movie. Now, the one movie I think that really embraces the holiday, for the one horror movie anyway, that embraces the holiday is Uncle Sam. Directed by William Lustig. It was released in 1996. Now, this is a 4K release. So what we have here is a 3D cover, also known as a lenticular cover. We have regular Uncle Sam, I Want You, to gruesome Uncle Sam, I Want You Dead. So this was released by Blue Underground. William Lustig has put out several of his other movies to Blue Underground, and every one of them has a very amazing transfer, like Maniac Cop 3 and Maniac Cop 2. They don't seem to own the rights to the first Maniac Cop, but maybe eventually they'll get those rights and do a transfer. He also did Maniac. But Uncle Sam is kind of like he kind of looks a little bit like Maniac Cop before he puts on the Uncle Sam costume. So he kind of likes this Maniac concept, William Lustig does. And all of these movies have an amazing commentary by William and some of the other people, but the commentaries alone are worth the price of what these are if you can catch them on a good day. I'd recommend any of these getting them. But as far as Uncle Sam, let's take a look at the packaging. So we see the outside, and when we look at the inside of it, it's the same artwork. It doesn't change, but it does have "I Want You Dead," the messed up Uncle Sam, and inside of it we have but one disc. It's 4K. This doesn't include a Blu-ray disc in it, which is unfortunate. But here's the original artwork. I was very impressed by the transfer of this 4K release. It is. I haven't seen the movie before, but it looks fantastic. There's a lot of scenes that take place outside. There's like a 4th of July parade and a festival, and even the nighttime scenes, everything looks very, very clean. There's still a healthy amount of film grain seen on screen, but it looks very nice. Now, this was originally a direct to DVD video, so this is the first time watching this movie for me, and it's not as good as it should be, but it is pretty good. If you've seen the new Thanksgiving movie, which I think is an excellent movie, and this kind of does that, but Thanksgiving does it a lot better. Now, a lot of times when people get killed in this movie, it either doesn't show it very well. It may have been like an issue with the censors, but I don't know if it was ever shot with additional like gruesome stuff that, but there's several characters who you want to see get killed because of the way they're set up, but then it doesn't show them get killed. They're discovered dead later on in pretty surprising moments. So I mean, it's kind of effective that you see them dead, but at the same time, you a lot of times are cheated out of those type of death scenes. There are a lot of impressive supporting actors in this movie that have not a lot to do. Like for instance, Timothy Bottoms, who starred in The Last Picture Show. He's in this briefly as his teacher, and he has a few scenes, but he gets killed fairly early. And it also has Bo Hopkins in it, who I wasn't that familiar, but he gets pretty high billing, and he plays a army sergeant guy who comes to their house to let them know that their uncle had been had been killed by friendly fire, and he's bringing the coffin there. A lot of these guy characters in the movie turn out to be very big sleaze bags. Most of the characters are that way, and they're set up that way so they can be killed. It really, like, Timothy Bottom's character comes off fairly sympathetic, but he does tell the kid in the, when he's talking to him in classroom, that he wasn't a supporter of the war. He seems to be, but he doesn't say this in a bragging type of way. He does seem like he has some regrets. He feels a little bad about it, but the fact that he didn't support the war is what this particular killer, Uncle Sam, goes after unpatriotic people. Now, there's some very over-the-top unpatriotic people in this that it makes it easy for him to go after, to kill. So as far as the setup of the villain in this movie, it is a little confusing, and probably even more so confusing since I've said a lot of things out of order. But it starts off at the beginning. He's killed by friendly fire. He's in a car, and he gets the car explodes or something. He's completely burned to a crisp, but he's still alive enough to kill a few of the guys who did the friendly fire. His body is shipped back to his hometown, where his wife is, and his wife has kind of moved on from him, and she's got a new cop boyfriend who's also a bit of a douchebag, so he can get killed later without it being like a big deal. Honestly, it probably would have been more effective had he been not a douchebag and then he got killed, because then you kind of care when they get killed. I'm not sure why they have to all suck to get killed, but that's just how this movie does it, I guess. So the body's sent back, and the main character of this movie is a kid. It's Uncle Sam, so he's his nephew. That's why it's called Uncle Sam. It's not because Uncle Sam wants you to be in the army. It's Uncle Sam is his uncle, and he apparently was a psychopath, and he joined the army just to kill people. But this whole time, since he's been in the army, his nephew's been idolizing him, thinking he's some big hero. Now, Isaac Hayes plays the best character in the movie. He was a former mentor to Uncle Sam, and he talks to the kid there's an excellent scene during the funeral. He brings the kid aside, and he's like, hey, look, you don't want to get involved. This isn't you getting involved with this war stuff and all this killing. Your uncle, I encouraged him to do it because he had something, he seemed like he needed to get it out of his system, but you don't. And that to me is the best scene in the movie, that scene between him and the kid, and to me, that's a very powerful statement. Anyway, so then somehow he's in the coffin, burned to a crisp, and he's dead, and there's no explanation. I guess there doesn't need to be. It's a horror movie, but he is able to come back to life, and he's let out of the coffin, and it takes a long time in the movie for that to happen. But finally, when he gets out of the coffin, he goes and he starts killing people, and he looks like Maniac Cop briefly. But then he goes and he finds a guy who is wearing an Uncle Sam costume, and he's on stilts, and this guy's peering in this window watching this girl undress. So I think that's the only nudity in the movie. He sees her getting undressed briefly, and then he is stalked by Uncle Sam, the undead one, and then he steals he kills him and steals the costume, and then most of the rest of the movie he's wearing this mask, this Uncle Sam mask, which is very iconic, and like they kind of did that in Thanksgiving with the Carver mask, like the Pilgrim mask. But so there are like a lot of scenes at this festival in this movie outside where they're able to get actors of the Revolutionary War and stuff like that in the movie. So it makes it look really big when you see those scenes like that. Robert Forster's also in the movie briefly. He has a few scenes, but most of these guys like that, with the exception of Isaac Hayes, don't have a lot to do, and they probably only shot a few days in general. But this movie, like, it's not as good as it should be, but it is probably one of the better American Independence Day horror movies out there. So I kind of halfway recommend it, but I think really like what Blue Underground did with their transfer and their packaging with the 3D changing poster, like regular. And then anyway, happy 4th of July. I'm Dave Watkins, and if you want to like this video and subscribe.